understand you're moving to Harvard and starting to focus away from free culture on this issue of corruption. So tell us a little bit about what caused that.
So about a year ago, I announced that my academic work was moving to what I think of as a problem of corruption, which I don't mean, the Rod Blagojevich or Ted series of tubes Stevens. It's not that kind of crude corruption. What I think of as the harder problem of corruption is places, institutions where money begins to have an influence that distorts the objective of the institution. So, when doctors who are reviewing whether drugs are safe and effective take hundreds of thousands of dollars from the drug companies whose drugs they are reviewing, that's a kind of corruption. Now the doctors say, oh, I'm a scientist, I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm not going to be biased by the fact that I'm getting all this money. But whether that's true or not, the public looks at that, and the public says, why should I trust that doctor when he says this vaccine is safe for my child? Why should I trust him? He got $500,000 from that drug company. So it erodes the ability of medicine or doctors to be convincing to the public about incredibly important issues, like whether their kids should be vaccinated. Same thing with Congress, right? In my district, 88% of people believe money buys results in Congress. So you tell them, my congressman voted this way because she believes in the issue, and the other side says, well, she also got paid by the interest that's benefited by this issue. Everybody knows why she did what she did. Everybody believes she did what she did because she was paid or because she raised money from that interest, never even listening to her when she tries to explain, this is why I voted this way versus that way. So we lose trust in the institution because of the role of money. So I think we could look at a whole range of contexts, medicine, academics, journalism, and agencies and Congress, where money has this corrupting influence. And so what this project is, the academic project, is to begin to launch a field of research about this, to begin to build norms, reflective norms about how we could deal with it. Now the particular political movement that I've helped Joe Trippi start is this movement called Change Congress. And our real objective is to apply this understanding to Congress, because of all the institutions, it's Congress that is the most bankrupt. The Supreme Court has very high public support, Bush v. Gore notwithstanding. After January 20th, when Barack Obama is president, Barack Obama will reestablish the presidency. There's no doubt about that. But even then, Congress will be hated by most people. Last summer, 9% of the American public said that Congress was doing either a good or an excellent job. There were probably more people who supported the British Crown at the Revolution than support Congress today. Right? So this is a failed institution because most people think the institution is just bought. Right? Well, academics, political scientists say, well, the evidence isn't there. It's all sort of complicated, blah, blah, blah. But I say, forget the evidence. The question isn't whether you can prove Congress was bought. The question is, what do people believe? And when you've got this level of skepticism, you got to stop worrying about, in some sense, whether in fact they're bought. You got to start dealing with the skepticism.
I'm struggling to see, how did you go from focusing on copyright and free culture over the last 10 years to moving to corruption? Was there a link? Was there a moment where you said, not this, and focus on this instead?
I came to a point about a year ago where I had this moment of first recognizing that though I was working extremely hard to push these issues, actually intellectually, these are not hard issues, right? It's not like, when I first started in this field about a decade ago, I had a lot to learn. I wasn't a copyright scholar. I had to learn a lot about copyright. I had to figure out how to frame the issues and make it clear. But I began to recognize that even though these were relatively simple issues, governments around the world were consistently getting them wrong. And then I was close to the person who was making Al Gore's movie about global warming. And, one very important message in Gore's movie and Gore's speeches about global warming is the way in which the political system systematically got that issue wrong as well. And so, this is an obvious point, but for many years I was thinking, well, okay, they're getting this issue wrong, but it's an esoteric area of, public policy. It's, even I don't believe this is the most important issue out there. But when I saw Gore basically complaining about the same point, it struck me that, if they're getting the most important public policy question wrong for this reason, namely that money is buying results or money is distorting the process, as well as this esoteric issue of copyright, then at some point we need to recognize that this is the issue we need to address. Like, this is the issue that has to be solved. If we don't solve this, we're not going to solve anything else. So
you think this corruption issue is actually core to solving the copyright and the free culture?
Absolutely, yeah. So when I give my speeches now about corruption, there's a metaphor that I draw, which is a metaphor about alcoholism, right? So if you know, as all of us do, an alcoholic, and you know the harm that an alcoholic does, and you think about the harm in an alcoholic's life, the alcoholic could be losing his family, his job, his liver, right? These are the most important problems he faces. But what we all know is until he solves his alcoholism, he's not going to solve any of these issues. And that's the issue, that's corruption, because we've got enormously difficult problems. Healthcare, the wars, global warming, the financial crisis. But we're not going to solve any of these issues in a sensible way until we solve this corruption issue first.
Professor Lessig, this has been a great conversation. Thank you.